it's something that people feel very mission aligned with. And the fact that we're doing it in a context of a public benefit corporation where we can maximize benefit, really maximize the accessibility of this treatment if it becomes approved. So I think that's why we've been able to really be at the forefront.
My next guest is Amy Emerson, CEO of Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, or MAPS, Public Benefit Corporation. Hey, Amy, how's it going?
Good.
Good. Amy, so this is an interesting interview for me because it was just revealed to me that we were doing this with this nonprofit subsidiary of MAPS. And so my first question is, I didn't realize MAPS was a for-profit entity.
No, so I think you have it a little bit backwards. So MAPS is the nonprofit, and MAPS is the full-on name, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, and they're a nonprofit. And in end of 2014, beginning of 2015, we took my research team at MAPS and moved it into a wholly owned subsidiary just called MAPS Public Benefit Corporation. And so it is a for-profit, but within a public benefit corporation context. And it remains wholly owned by the nonprofit. And this is where we do all of our research.
I see. Okay. Why don't we start then with an overview of what MAPS and your research entails for those who haven't heard of MAPS?
Yeah. So within the Public Benefit Corp, we are in charge of the entire clinical research, clinical development program for MDMA for PTSD is our focus right now. But MDMA in general, we will be looking at other indications in the future. But right now, we are in a phase 3 part of the drug development process. We're in our second phase 3 and about halfway enrolled. We'll be having an interim analysis at the beginning of next year and complete that study next year. We have breakthrough therapy with the FDA, and we'll be filing a new drug application at the end of 2022.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So then is the goal then to derive a sort of pharmaceutical product from MDMA, from the formerly sort of clandestine MDMA, for use in medical settings?
Yeah, so, and it's quite different than what other drugs, like the context of other drugs used for treatment, especially for PTSD. Right now, they're SSRIs, which are about symptom management, and this would be MDMA assisted therapy. So it's a drug plus a therapy, and we really think that it is the therapy that's a very important part of it. And the MDMA as the drug is what opens people up to allow the therapy to work for PTSD. So it's a fairly new type of way to go through a drug development program with FDA, where it is a drug plus a therapy, because FDA doesn't usually and has not regulated therapy. So this is like kind of going into new territory.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting. I guess that's why you're able to attract such a high level of interest, both in the mental health fields, as well as financially. I'm quite impressed with the sort of the funding that you've been able to achieve. And it's, in all respects, MAPS sort of stands at the pinnacle of, research and academia, as well as the emerging number of for-profit companies that are creating different psychedelic molecules from plants like psilocybin, from like ayahuasca and MDMA. This is very near and dear to me because I always felt that because of my sort of non-clinical experimentation with the psychedelics as a young person growing up, that I felt like it really changed my life and sort of opened up my heart, if you will, and. So I'm so welcoming to this whole idea of psychedelics going mainstream because I think the world would be a much better place. So then what is the goal of MAPS at this point?
Yeah, and I just want to say, I think the reason we've been able to have so much support from so many donors is because there's so many stories out there like yours, or that there's people that that have within their families people that have been healed through these substances along with therapy, and so it's something that people feel very mission aligned with, and the fact that we're doing it in a context of a public benefit corporation where we can maximize benefit, really maximize the accessibility of this treatment if it becomes approved. So I think that's why we've been able to really be at the forefront, and just dedication. Rick started this work 35 years ago. I've been working with him for 18 years on this drug development program. And I think another reason that we've been successful is by having donors support us instead of investors. We really had the ability to just keep going through this. Like if we would have been relying on investor money, there would have been an expectation of a return way before. So I think it's been important that we've done this in the way that we have. And now I've forgotten your other question. So ask me again.
Well, so yeah. So I mean, if MAPS was a publicly traded company funded by investment dollars, obviously your goal would be to create shareholder value. But so that's my question. Besides the obvious, sort of evangelizing the sort of unpopular or rather esoteric aspects of psychedelics' ability to ameliorate mental health conditions, what is the overarching goal and purpose of MAPS?
Yeah, there's the two organizations. So there's MAPS, the nonprofit that has a mission related to education and drug policy, and really making these, MDMA and cannabis available in medical and spiritual contexts. So there's a lot of drug policy reform and education and harm reduction work that's done. And then for my work specifically in the MAPS PBC, ours is a drug development initiative. So it's taking these things through a medicalization and through the FDA pathway in the US and through the regulatory pathway that exists in other countries as well. So it's really global, and we really want global mass mental health is the overall, just a tiny little goal there. And so that's inclusive of many things, not just this. So there's a lot of work that MAPS is doing on education and harm reduction and public policy. And then our work is supporting that by also taking things through in an evidence-based way to show safety and efficacy in a medicalized model. And the importance of a medical model is also so that we can engage payers, and that this treatments are more accessible by having payers and insurance companies take up covering the treatment.
Okay, so in that we're sort of an investment-focused platform, I have to ask, will there ever be any opportunity for investors to participate in any MAP subsidiary or offshoot or spin-off at any point?
You should never say never, but right now that's not the plan.
Right.
We really want to keep this as close to a nonprofit context as possible. And then, we did make a for-profit with the Public Benefit Corp because MAPS would not have been able to sell MDMA within their incorporated mission as a 501c3. And the intent is to keep it wholly owned by that nonprofit. So, but there's a lot of other opportunities out there with a lot of other people doing psychedelic work.
Yeah, you bet. So from what perspective does MAPS sort of view the monetization of psychedelic regulation, psychedelic sort of decriminalization and research? Do you see, my question is, my curiosity is, at what point does the for-profit sector become exploitive towards, psychedelics for mental health remedies as opposed to really serving a public benefit?
Yeah. That's what we're constantly talking about that. And what we want to be doing is setting the stage and setting taking the lead in developing this ecosystem and showing that you really can put public benefit first, and then putting a pressure on the industry to follow that. We're not against people having a revenue. We need to become a sustainable organization as well, and we will make a profit from this. But the idea is that the decisions that you make should be driven by public benefit first over profit. And so we would like to encourage other companies to set up in a similar way and really do this different than what the pharmaceutical industry has done in the past. Let's show people that this can be done in a way that creates accessibility and isn't only about profit, but it's a respect for the very long-standing work that's been done with these substances throughout history, and for the people that need this healing.
Sure. Are there any of the for-profit companies in your sort of universe that you would be comfortable sort of talking about as an example of how it should be done?
That's a tricky one. I really am not in the space of feeling like promoting other groups. I have admired the way that Journey Collab was approaching this with reciprocity, and I think there are other groups that I'm starting to see take that more seriously, and I think part of it is because of the pressure that we create by us being a leader in this arena, and that it's also the psychedelic community has an expectation that if you're going to play in this field, there needs to be some way that you're giving back. So I guess I would just say, look for companies that really prioritize that and have something behind the words, like some type of reciprocity model or plan for patient access programs. And we're also looking at a B impact assessment. So since we're a B Corp, we're not a certified B Corp. We're incorporated in Delaware as a benefit corporation. So there is no standing B impact assessment that exists through B Corp, but we are working on creating our own. And we feel like that could be something that's used in the industry as well for people to compare against other groups. Like, are they also having a positive impact in putting benefit first?
Mm-hmm. All right, Amy, I would love to talk to you for hours on end, but our time is up, and I really appreciate your participation, and thanks for joining me today. I hope to talk to you again soon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet. Bye for now.